I want to know from a hobby perspective, what do you guys do in your free time? What's one way that you typically will unwind or have some fun? And please don't say it's reading new SBA guidelines.
It's reading credit policy.
I will kick you out of the studio if you bring that in here.
I would say for me, personally, so I have a 3-year-old, and so I try to spend as much time as I can, with my daughter and my wife, and that really helps me disconnect. We bought a bouncy house, so we set up the bouncy house in the backyard, and
awesome.
That seems to be pretty fun for everyone. But I'd say in the winter, I love to ski. In the summer, it's everything from just going on walks with my family. We have a tradition of going to Camp Dearborn right over here in Milford, and go there every year. So that's kind of one of our highlight trips. We love doing that. But that's I feel like I should be doing more sports. I learned how to golf this year. I'm very late learning how to golf, so I'm horrible, but trying my best. So.
I just picked it up after about 10 years, and boy, am I terrible.
Yeah.
But it's fun though.
Yeah.
What I do is I have a daughter as well. I try and manage her music career, and love camping and love hanging out here in this community, connecting with people. I was at the Chamber for the Jazz Fest, and just seeing everyone downtown. It was exciting. It was fun. And so traveling, obviously. And that's about it.
So my kids, I have twins that are in college. So my husband and I are empty nesters and kind of figured that out during COVID.
Okay.
But we've started going to concerts. So that is a hobby we had before we had kids. They became really active. We stopped going. Now we're going back to concerts. So I'd say that's pretty much what my hobby's been lately.
I'm trying to get Nikki to babysit so I can go to some concerts. She's not taking it.
She's got the empty nest. Just go to one last concert.
Yeah.
That's right, Nikki. Come on.
Right.
What's the last concert?
One key.
I just went and saw Luke Bryan on Saturday.
Oh,
very nice.
You were there?
I was.
Oh, I was there too.
There's 20,000 people there.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
Did you find your car?
Well, I live in Conway Township, so that's right where all that's going.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
So that dominated not only, and I was gone. I was in Kentucky all weekend for that. Thankfully for the traffic and whatnot. It's the only time that township gets traffic. But it dominated the social media feed for a couple of days, and I was like, pretty much everyone and their brother and their cousin went to that.
And their banker.
Yeah, and their banker.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We were
like
selling
pretty
that
cool
$1,700 thing over there, right?
1,800.
1,800. Yeah.
It's one of the giveaways.
Yeah, one of the giveaways plus a toaster.
Yeah, it was inside the beach balls they were throwing around, kicked off of the stage.
That's right.
Oh, that's cool. Last question. So I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to go into it so you guys have time to think. But favorite author is the question, and favorite book. It can be a part two if you'd like. I've been one thing that I really encourage my team here is just because it rhymes, it also works. But the whole readers or leaders or readers thing, I think that's super important. So I always encourage people to read, whether it's audio or text or whatnot. If you're actually going to break out the old fashioned book. But I always encourage reading because it gives a ton of different perspectives on a ton of different topics. And it's one of my favorite. You guys ever seen the movie Good Will Hunting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my favorite lines in that movie is he's in this bar with this guy who's basically making fun of his friend for not going to school. And he's like, you're going to realize, he's talking to the guy that went to Harvard. He's like, you're going to realize that you spent $150,000 on an education that you could have gotten for $4 in late charges from the public library. and that is just, and granted, that's not to minimize the importance of college, but there's such a vast amount of education that can come from things that we already have access to. So I always think about that line and how important it is. So all of that to say, your guys' favorite books / authors.
So I would probably answer that differently than most. I've been more impacted by reading everything that I possibly can off of Harvard Business Review and Bloomberg.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I think it's not as static as reading a leadership book or reading a something to make you better, because the world is moving so fast. And the issues that face us today were different than 6 months ago, and they're going to be different in another 6 months. And I find that Harvard Business Review and Bloomberg are two that just are on the spot for me.
Sure.
And I'd say the one book, and probably going to laugh when I say this, Dr. Seuss, The Places You Will Go,
Yeah.
I think is probably one of the truest books I've ever read for my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bestseller around May or June every year. Everyone's aunt is getting them.
Whenever I read that, I'm like, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a long road to graduate college for my undergrad, and my best friend gave me that book, and it truly did hit home. Yeah.
I hate to say it on a business podcast.
Right.
But,
No, it's and that's kind of thing. Like you can take 500 pages, and kind of to your point on the Harvard Business Review, is you can distill a topic without all the anecdotes and metaphors and flowery language. You can get it down into about 10 pages.
Yeah, and I think if you're consistently reading those publications, and like for me, I listen to Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrow pretty much every morning on Bloomberg.
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm much more prepared to get into my day because they hit on all the points, and it's so relevant. They're already talking about what's going to happen potentially tomorrow, pros and cons, and
sure.
It really helped me kind of navigate, kind of through the crisis as well.
Yeah, I would say the local news, reading that daily is helpful. But in the past, I've really enjoyed reading the Gallup books. Believe it or not, and there's quite a few authors that I like. So
Very good.
So I like to read to escape. So I'm more of a fictional reader.
Yeah.
And if you want to just hear what my favorite book of all time was The Godfather, Mario Puzo. Couldn't put it down.
Excellent choice.
Yeah. And,
That's a good one.
and honestly, it's just kind of how I relax. So
Yeah, I read Stephen King's It every year.
Oh,
It's
wow.
1,100 pages. It's a
That's a
monster.
commitment.
But it's so good though. Every time I read it, I learn something different. It's just a fantastic book.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's excellent. And that's kind of the point is like, there's so many different ways to consume content, whether it's through a podcast, audiobook, the paper, journals, like there's so many different ways and there's no wrong way as long as you're actively pursuing it.
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly it.
So last question, we'll kind of jump back over to KeyBank for a moment. One thing that you want the listeners to take away from today's podcast.
That we're absolutely open for business. We want your business. We can earn your business, and we're best in class.
Excellent.
what Dave just said.
I will use a cosign here. Ditto.
I will say, come into our branches. They will treat you like your family. I mean, you are going to get the best service ever.
Now, my family or which family are we talking about here?
Very valid point.
The KeyBank family, right?
Yeah, we bolt down the chairs at our reunion, so I'm just curious, which family are we talking about? No, that's excellent, though. And that's what you want. You want people to treat you extremely well. And that's kind of, you go to places and you can tell their culture is built around customer service. It's built around treating people well. And that does make a difference. You don't feel like just another transaction.